A text from my neighbor arrived at 8:43 on a Thursday night. It contained only 6 words. I think you should see this. Below it, one picture. I opened it without thinking. My wife was standing outside a small beachside restaurant. She wasn't alone. She was holding another man's hand. Not awkwardly. Not like co-workers walking together. Like two people who had already forgotten the rest of the world existed. I zoomed in. I recognized the jacket she was wearing. I'd bought it for her birthday 6 months earlier. For nearly a minute. I couldn't move. 3 weeks earlier, she'd looked me in the eyes and said, "I need to find myself." I believed her. I even told her I'd wait. Looking at that picture, I realized she hadn't been looking for herself at all. She'd already found someone else. The strange part wasn't the photo. It was who had taken it. My neighbor had been over 200 miles away on a business trip. Out of every place in the country, he'd somehow run into my wife. Looking back, that picture didn't destroy my marriage. It simply forced me to start believing the story I'd been telling myself. 3 weeks earlier, Claire sat across from me at our kitchen table. She looked exhausted. Her coffee had gone cold almost an hour earlier. She hadn't touched it. "I've been trying to figure out how to say this," she whispered. I waited. After 8 years of marriage, I'd learned that interrupting difficult conversations usually made them worse. Finally, she looked up. "I think I've lost who I am." I frowned. "What do you mean?" "I don't know who I am outside of us." There wasn't anger in her voice, just sadness. "I need some time." "Time for what?" "To figure myself out." Those words didn't sound like someone ending a marriage. They sounded like someone asking for help. So I reached across the table and took her hand. "We'll figure it out together." She gently pulled her hand away. "I think I need to do this alone." That was the first moment something inside me quietly shifted. Not because she wanted space. Because, for the first time in 8 years, she was talking about a future that didn't automatically include me. I wanted to tell her we could fix whatever she was feeling. Instead, I asked, "How much time do you need?" She stared at the table before answering. "I don't know. Maybe a few weeks. I just need some distance." I nodded. "If that's what you need." She looked surprised. "You're not going to stop me. I don't want to keep someone who doesn't want to stay." For a moment, she looked like she wanted to say something. Instead, she quietly whispered, "Thank you for understanding." She moved into a furnished apartment the following weekend. Not far away. Close enough that she said we'd still be able to meet whenever she felt ready. Before leaving, she hugged me. "I promise this isn't about anyone else." I looked into her eyes. "I believe you." At the time, I actually did. The first week wasn't as bad as I expected. We texted almost every day. Nothing romantic. Just small conversations. How was work? Did Max eat our golden retriever? Don't forget trash pickup is Thursday. Normal messages. The kind married couples send without thinking. They made me believe we still had something worth saving. Whenever I asked if we could have dinner together, she always had a reason. "I'm not ready yet. I still need more time. Can we not rush this?" So I stopped asking. Not because I was giving up. Because I wanted her to feel safe coming back. By the third week, the messages became shorter. Sometimes she'd disappear for an entire day before replying. When I called, she'd text instead. "Can't talk right now. I'll call you later." Most of those calls never came. Every excuse sounded reasonable by itself. But together, they slowly became a pattern I didn't want to admit was there. I kept telling myself she was simply working through whatever she'd been carrying. Looking back, I think I was protecting the version of Claire I wanted to believe still existed. Exactly 23 days after she moved out, my next-door neighbor, Ryan, left for a 4-day business conference in Charleston. We joked about him finally getting a few days away from meetings. Neither of us knew that trip would change my life. 3 days later, while I was finishing dinner alone, my phone buzzed. A text from Ryan. There wasn't a greeting. Just 6 words. I think you should see this. Then, one photo. My hands were shaking before I even opened the picture. At first, I hoped Ryan had sent it to the wrong person. Maybe it wasn't Claire. Maybe I was overthinking it. Then the image loaded. Every excuse disappeared. Claire was sitting on an outdoor patio overlooking the water. Across from her sat a man I'd never seen before. They weren't just having dinner. She was leaning across the table, smiling in a way I hadn't seen in months. His hand rested over hers, the same hand that had worn our wedding ring just 3 weeks earlier. I kept staring at the screen, hoping I'd notice something that proved I was wrong. Instead, I noticed the small details. The navy jacket I'd bought her for Christmas. The silver necklace my mother had given her on our wedding day. She wasn't just with another man. She was wearing pieces of the life we'd built together. A second message from Ryan came through. I'm really sorry, man. I wasn't sure if I should send it. I called him immediately. He answered on the first ring. Daniel, I wish this wasn't me calling. When was this taken? About 20 minutes ago. You saw them? Yeah. They walked into the restaurant together. He hesitated. I almost didn't recognize Claire. She looked. He stopped himself. Looked what? Happy. That word landed harder than the picture. Happy. For the past 3 weeks, she'd been telling me she was emotionally exhausted, that she needed time alone, that she was trying to figure herself out. Yet somehow, she looked happier than she had in months. I thanked Ryan for telling me the truth and ended the call. For nearly an hour, I sat in complete silence. I wasn't trying to figure out who the man was anymore. A different question kept replaying in my mind. When did this actually begin? Had she met him after moving out? Or had she already known him while she was still sleeping beside me every night? Those 2 possibilities changed everything. One meant my marriage had fallen apart. The other meant it had been over long before I ever realized it. Before I could stop myself, I opened our old text messages. Then I searched for one word. Conference. And what I found made my stomach sink. The search returned 6 conversations. Every one of them was about work trips. At first, nothing looked unusual. Then I opened one from 4 months earlier. Claire had texted me. I'll be home late. The conference dinner ran longer than expected. I remembered that night. I'd ordered takeout for both of us. Her food was still sitting on the kitchen counter when she got home. She'd told me she wasn't hungry. Back then, I hadn't questioned it. Now I kept scrolling. Another conference. Another late meeting. Another unexplained delay. Individually, they meant nothing. Together, they painted a picture I hadn't wanted to see. Around 9 that night, my phone rang. Claire. For a moment, I considered letting it go to voicemail. Instead, I answered. Hey. Her voice sounded calm, almost cheerful. How's your evening? I closed my eyes. Interesting. She laughed softly. That doesn't sound good. I got a message from Ryan. Silence. Then she asked, what kind of message? He sent me a picture. Another silence. Longer this time. Finally, she spoke. I can explain. I looked out the living room window. No. I think I'd rather hear the truth. She took a slow breath. It's not what it looks like. I almost smiled. I don't think there's another way to interpret you holding another man's hand. We were just talking. Claire, I've been your husband for 8 years. You don't hold someone's hand because the conversation is interesting. She didn't answer. When she finally spoke again, her voice was barely above a whisper. I didn't want you to find out like this. That sentence hit me harder than the photo. Not because she admitted anything directly, because she'd stopped denying there was something to find out. I asked quietly, "Who is he?" "A coworker." "How long have you known him?" "Since last year." I felt my stomach tighten. "Before you moved out." She didn't answer. I didn't ask again. I already knew. "I never planned for this to happen," she said. "It just happened." "No." I interrupted gently. "It didn't just happen. You asked me to wait. You asked me to respect your space. You told me you were trying to find yourself." I paused. "But somewhere in the middle of all that, you found someone else." She started crying. "I never wanted to hurt you. I believe you. But you've been protecting him, while asking me to protect our marriage." The line went completely silent. For the first time in weeks, she had no explanation left. Only the truth. And for the first time since she walked out, I stopped hoping she'd come home. The next morning, Claire asked if we could meet. Not to come home. Not to fix our marriage. Just to talk. We met at a small coffee shop halfway between our neighborhoods. She was already sitting outside when I arrived. For the first time in weeks, she looked nervous. There were dark circles under her eyes. Her coffee sat untouched. I pulled out the chair across from her. Neither of us spoke for almost a minute. Finally, she broke the silence. "I owe you the truth." I nodded. "You do." She stared down at her hands. "I met Ethan about 9 months ago." I didn't interrupt. "We worked on the same project. It started as friendship. We talked a lot. When things got difficult between us, I started talking to him instead of you." She looked up, hoping I'd say something. I didn't, because every answer she gave only confirmed what I'd already suspected. "I never planned to leave you." She wiped a tear from her cheek. "But somewhere along the way, I stopped trying to fix our marriage." I quietly asked, "So when you told me you needed to find yourself, were you already in love with him?" She closed her eyes, then slowly nodded. "I think I was." For a second, everything around us disappeared. The sound of traffic, the people walking past, even the coffee shop. There was only one thought in my head. She hadn't left because she found herself. She left because she'd already found someone else. "I wanted to make sure it was real before I ended everything," she whispered. I looked at her. "So you asked me to wait, while you decided whether he was worth losing me." Tears rolled down her face. "I know how horrible that sounds." "No," I replied calmly. "I don't think you do." She reached across the table. I didn't move my hand. That tiny moment seemed to hurt her more than anything I'd said. For the first time since we'd separated, the distance between us wasn't physical. It was emotional, and neither of us knew how to cross it anymore. Claire slowly pulled her hand back. "I don't expect you to forgive me." I nodded. "That's probably the first honest thing you've said since this started." She lowered her head. I kept telling myself I was trying to do the right thing. "No, you were trying to avoid feeling like the bad guy." She didn't argue, because she knew I was right. "You asked me to wait," I continued. "You asked me to respect your space. You let me believe there was still a marriage worth saving." She quietly whispered, "I know, but while I was waiting, you were building a new relationship." For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Then she asked the question I think she'd been afraid of all morning. So, is there anything left to save? I looked at her, not with anger, not even disappointment, just clarity. I don't think we lost our marriage 3 weeks ago. I think we lost it the day you stopped being honest with me. She closed her eyes. A tear rolled down her cheek. I wish I could go back. I believe you. But wanting a different past doesn't change the one we already have. A week later, I filed for divorce. There wasn't a dramatic courtroom battle. No shouting. No revenge. Just paperwork, signatures, and the quiet acceptance that two people were no longer walking in the same direction. Claire moved the rest of her belongings out that weekend. When she left the house for the last time, she paused at the front door. I really did love you. I looked at her for a second. I think you did. But somewhere along the way, you stopped protecting what you loved. She nodded without saying another word. Then she walked away. The divorce became final a few months later. I heard through mutual friends that Claire and Ethan were still together. Some people expected that news to bother me. It didn't. By then, I wasn't measuring my life against theirs anymore. Instead, I started rebuilding my own. I spent more weekends with my parents, started hiking again, reconnected with friends I'd slowly drifted away from during the marriage. Little by little, life stopped feeling like something I was trying to survive. It simply became peaceful again. Almost a year later, I ran into Ryan, the neighbor who'd sent me that picture. He apologized again. I still feel bad for being the one who showed you. I smiled. Don't. If you hadn't sent it, I probably would have kept waiting. He looked at me for a moment. So, do you ever regret knowing the truth? I thought about it. Honestly, no. The picture hurt. But living a lie would have hurt a lot longer. As I drove home that evening, I realized something. People think my marriage ended because my wife said she needed to find herself. It didn't. It ended the moment she asked me to keep believing in a future she'd already stopped choosing. The picture my neighbor sent didn't destroy my marriage. It simply showed me the truth I hadn't been ready to see. And once I finally accepted that truth, walking away no longer felt like losing the person I loved. It felt like finally respecting the person I'd been forgetting.